That's category 1. And admission on the basis of the sports trial, that is category B, C, and D. The category A is the direct admission also. The criteria for admission of the candidate will be based solely on the scrutiny of the uploaded merit and participation sports certificate by the candidate. The main the point to be kept in mind is the candidate must have appeared in the CUT UG 2024 that is being conducted by the NTA. Now, the admission on the basis of the sports trial, that is category B, C, and D, the criteria for admission of the candidate shall be based on the CSN, that is combined sports merit. That would comprise 25% of the CUT percentage score of all the programs in which the candidate has applied, 25% of the highest marks obtained by the candidate in the evaluation of the sports certificate, the merit and the participation sports certificate, and 50% of the highest score obtained by the candidate in the sports trial he has appeared. In this category, weightage will be given on the uploaded merit and the participation sports certificate in the CSAS 2024 application form which was filled. For the game/sport you have mentioned, that is in the subsection, that's 22.2.2b, wherein the requirement of the game sport has been given by all the colleges, because every college is not having all the sports. Now, the admission without sports trial, candidates who have represented the country in the below mentioned competitions, recognized and funded by the MYS, will be given admission without sports trial. For the game/sport mentioned in the same, that is 22.2.2b, wherein the requirement has also been given by the college, that is the Summer Olympic Games, the World Championship, World Cup, Commonwealth Games, Asian Games, Asian Senior Championship. It is Asian Senior Championship. That is, and then the South Asian Games, and followed by the Paralympic Games. Now, the key points to be kept in mind: the sports certificate of invitational, that memorial, open prize, money leagues, selection trials, squad ranking, competition will not be considered. And also the letterhead of the merit/participation of the sports competition will also not considered. The candidate can upload the maximum of 3 merit/participation sports certificates, and the uploaded merit participation sports certificates will be evaluated as per the criteria of the marking given for the uploaded public merit participation sports certificates. However, the highest marks obtained by the candidate in the evaluation of the sports certificate will be considered for the preparation of the CSN, that is combined sports merit, which will comprise the 25% the CUT score, 25% the marking of the sports certificate, and 50% of the sports trial. The important point to be kept in mind is that the sports certificate of the preceding 3 years will only be considered, and the dates would be the 1st May 2021 to 30th April 24. At the same time, the incomplete, the cutting, or the overwriting in the uploaded merit/participation sports certificate will not be considered for marking under any circumstances, and the level of competency will only be determined for those who achieved in the last 3 years. And also the candidate needs to score at least 20 marks in the evaluation of the sports certificate to be eligible for the consideration as CSN and also for the sports trials. The candidate will only be allowed to appear in the sports trial only in one event, one weight category. And also the candidate must secure a minimum of 200 marks out of 400 in the sports trial to be eligible for the consideration of the combined sports merit. Now the games and the sports which are considered for the admission on, on the basis of sports quota to supernumerary quota in the University of Delhi. Now the sports trial marks would consist of 400 marks, that is 75% weightage in the CSAS. The team games would be the baseball, men, basketball, men and women, cricket, men and women, football, men, women, handball, men and women, hockey, men and women, kabaddi, men and women, kho-kho, men and women, netball, women, softball, women, and volleyball, men and women. These are the team games. The marking is 400 marks. The fundamental skill will be of 200 marks, and the performance in the trial would be the 200 marks, and they would be evaluated during your sports trial. Then comes the dual and combat sports. That would comprise the badminton men and women, boxing men and women, fencing men and women, judo men and women, squash men and women, table tennis men and women, taekwondo. We have only karate, that is men and women, tennis men and women, and wrestling we have only freestyle men and women. So the marking would be of 400 marks, and that will be your performance in the trial. Evaluation will be done out of 400 marks. Now the individual sports, that is archery men and women, athletics men and women, chess men and women, diving men and women, gymnastics men and women, shooting we have all the events for men and women, swimming all the events for men and women, and weightlifting for men and women. So marking criteria would be the 400 marks, and the performance in the trial would be that is 400 marks. Now, we'll go to the next slide. That is criteria for marking of the uploaded merit or part. These are the category, that is A category, that is represented India, admission without sports trial. B category, that is a position and participation Asian Junior. The Asian Senior is in the A category, and Asian Junior Youth Championships are in the category B. Then the National Games, Federation Cup, Senior National, National, Interzonal National School Games under 17-19, Youth Games 17, that is Khelo India under 17, 18, 21, Junior National, Sub-Junior National, Junior National, all will come in your B category. Then comes the C category, that is the state level or the interzonal level. It will comprise both the CBSE National, KVS, IPSC, DAV, Navodaya Vidyalaya, Vidya Bharati, and all. So these are the marking criteria for the first position, second, third, and there's not eligible in the participation. D category, that comprises the district level, the marks given over there, and the participation will give you not eligible. Now the seat allocation. For allocation of seat for the supernumerary quota, preference will be given to category A candidates. And then for allocation of seats for supernumerary quota for category B, C, D candidates, that is combined sports merit of the candidate will be considered. The CSM score of the candidate will be the summation of 25% of the CET score, 25% of the highest marks obtained by the candidate, and the 50% of the highest score obtained by the candidate in the sports trial. Now the allocation will be done on the following criteria: CSM ranking of the candidate, then the preference of the program, college combination opted by the candidate in the preference filling phase, and also the availability of the seats for the specific game or sports in the college opted by the candidate. So in the subsequent rounds, if any, if there is, for admission on the basis of sports supernumerary quota, the candidates who have already been admitted on the sports quota will have to opt for upgrade to be considered for the higher preference of college, program, combination, and seat for the specific game in the college as per the optional already exercised by the candidate. The candidate who is in the active or choose freeze will not be considered in the further subsequent round. Now the important information for grievances related for the marks given on the uploaded, that is merit participation sports certificate, shall be redressed by the UG Sports Grievance Committee of the university, and they will be displayed on the for 3 days to register your grievance, if any. All registered grievance shall be resolved within the next 3 days by the Sports Grievance Committee of the university. At the same time, the marks awarded on the sports certificate will be displayed are provisional and are subject to the final scrutiny and verification of the sports certificate by the Sports Grievance Committee. The final decision will lie with the UG Grievance Committee. At the same time, the candidate must submit an undertaking at the time of admission once he is confirmed admission, stating that he will practice and also play for the college, and if selected, will represent the university in the sports competition as determined by the college, university, failing which the college will have the right to cancel the admission if the candidate violates the undertaking during his entire period of his study in the university. And all admissions are provisional and subject to the forensics examination, verification of the original documents of the candidate, and if the candidate is submitting the false fake certificate for seeking admission on the basis of sports supreme quota, will be debarred from the admission to any college for the next 3 years, and such admissions will be cancelled and the legal action will also be taken. So these were the main points to be kept in mind while you are applying to the sports supreme quota in the University of Delhi. Now, I would request my
Thank you, sir.
My colleague to please take.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for presenting all the rules and guidelines. So I hope a lot of things will clear from this PPT. And students, you can view this session later on as well, because it will be there on YouTube. It will be uploaded on YouTube. It will be there. आप चाहें तो इसे बाद में भी देख सकते हैं. यहाँ आपने देख लिया, आप अपने फ्रेंड्स को भी सजेस्ट कर सकते हैं. They can also watch this later on. So now I will request Professor Taneja ma'am to join us and share her PPT and tell us about rules and guidelines for admission under ECA quota. I hope all of you can see this PPT related to ECA. Okay. So I would request ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Kalkal, and thank you so much. Now, if in case the PPT does not move ahead, just let me know, please. You can stop me and intervene in between, and you can let me know. Otherwise, I'll proceed the way it is. Fine. So, sir, Professor Kalkal very elucidately explained about the admission through the sports quota. I will be explaining about the admission through the ECA quota, and there are certain differences, there are certain similarities. So I suggest that you go through this guideline as well very properly for you to take admission through the ECA, which is the extracurricular activities quota. So as is mentioned in the CSAS bulletin also, we are offering ECA categories across, we are offering ECA admissions across 14 categories, which I have mentioned herein and which are also there in the CSAS document. So this I'll very quickly go through. There are categories and there are subcategories. So there are broadly 14 categories, जिसमें हम ECA में admission आपको देते हैं Delhi University में. So very quickly, these are the 14 ECA categories, and which is spread across a number of categories. Now, these are the processes through which the admission is taken, because a number of queries we get every year and we get through mails also, and a number of questions are put up in the FAQs as well, that what exactly is the admission process. And that is why I prepared this flowchart for you to go through this admission process. See, first of all, you will have to apply for the ECA admissions. There's a prompt which asks you while you are registering on the CSAS portal, it will be asking you whether you want to apply for the ECA and the sports supernumerary quota. So it is very important to understand that this is only available during phase 1 of the CSAS registration. Once you have paid the fee and you are done with the first phase of CSAS, in the second phase, you cannot go back, or even in the correction window, you will not be given an option to upload or apply through ECA or even through sports quota anymore. So it's very important for you to register for your ECA admissions right during the phase 1 of CSAS. Then after, during that phase itself, you will be asked to upload your 5 best certificates. Out of these, the best 3 in case of NCC NSS, where there are no physical trials, best of 3 certificates will be considered, and in case of NCC and NSS, all 5 certificates will be considered for your score computation, which will be the ECA score computation. Then after the closure of phase 2 of CSAS, you are advised to keep checking the University of Delhi admission website, because that is the site where you will get the schedule, the venue, and the instructions for physical trials. No queries will later on be entertained on the fact that I did not receive a mail or it did not come on my dashboard. You will not be sent any kind of personal intimations. You will have to keep checking the University of Delhi admission website, wherein you will be given the details of where you're supposed to go for the physical trials. So out of these 14 ECA categories that we talked about, 12 of them will have physical trials, and NCC NSS alone will not have any physical trial component. So for these 2 categories, your marks will reflect on your dashboard and the grievance window will open for a given time frame. I'm telling you right away that this window, because we have to follow the timelines, the result has to be declared on time. This ECA grievance window for NCC and NSS is usually opened for a time period of 3 to 4 days. So please keep checking the website and the dashboard frequently for you to get your NCC and NSS scores. And in the given time frame, if there is any grievance, you will have to fill up that form, and that form will be self-explanatory. For any other 12 categories except NCC and NSS, you will not get any grievance window, and no grievances will be entertained later on. I'll explain the reasons to you when I come to the physical trial portion. Then after, the last thing is that you will, just as Kalkal sir explained, for this also, you will have to then, once the ECA allocations are done as per the given schedule, the allocated college and program will be available on your dashboard, and you will have to accept this if you want to go in for the upgrade or admission through the ECA quota. In case, because that's a very frequent query that we get, in case you do not accept this ECA allocation, then your general allocation or allocation made to you through any other, if it's a physically disabled or any other category for that matter, because admission branch undertakes admission on a number of categories. So all your other categories will remain intact. This ECA allocation is independent of whatever happens in your general allocations. So only if you accept the ECA allocation will you be considered for upgradation. Otherwise, you will be out for the ECA allocation process if you do not accept it. And if you also do not accept this, then your general allocation will remain as such. It will not be hampered or changed, right? So this is the broad process which the candidates will have to follow for the ECA admission. Then certain main points have to be noted here, that a candidate can apply for a maximum of 3 ECA categories, but the allocation will be made to the candidate only on one of the categories, which will be the best category, which I'll explain subsequently. Now here the difference lies in from the sports category, that you can appear for trials for all the 3 categories wherein you have applied. Whichever category you score the best in will be considered for your combined ECA merit score, which we call the CEM score. Then the candidates are advised to go through college-wise ECA seat matrix. Seat matrix basically means which college is offering which seat under, how many seats under which ECA category. So many a times I get a query that say college A, I did not get college A even though I was the topper of dance, but say dance for example, but say that college A is not offering any seat in dance, then despite being the topper, you cannot get that particular college because that has not been opted for by that college in its seat matrix. So this seat matrix is very important for you to determine whether you will be getting a particular college or the course through that particular ECA category. Then, as sir had explained, for the CSM, similarly in ECA also, we get a combined ECA merit score, which we call the CEM, which will be the summation of 25% of your highest program specific CUET score. So if you have applied for say Eco Honors or BCom Honors, so out of the various eligibility conditions that you have, whichever condition gives you the highest score, that will be 25% of that score will be considered, and 75% of your ECA score will be considered. And this will be used to compute your CEM, which is the combined ECA merit score that will be used for allocation. Then, as I mentioned earlier also, for all 12 categories except NCC and NSS, 60 marks are for the physical trials and 15 marks are on the basis of the certificates. And for NCC and NSS, all 75 marks of the ECA score component are on the basis of the 5 uploaded certificates. There are no physical trials involved in the NCC and NSS category admissions. Then, you have to mention the time period is very important here, that the time period of the certificates has to be for the preceding 3 years alone. This 3-year period is important because any certificate issued before these 3-year period or which is not falling in this 3-year period will not be considered. So even if you have scored an international, say in your class 8th or your class 6th or your class 7, this preceding 3 years would basically mean class 10th, 11th and 12th. So if you have scored in anything less than these classes, then those certificates will not be considered and no grievance on that count will also be entertained. Then, as I mentioned earlier again, your all 5 certificates will be uploaded, and out of these, the best 3 will be awarded. So if you upload only 3, now here we also get a regular query that I do not have more than 4 certificates or I do not have more than 2 certificates. So as many number of certificates you upload, maximum of 3 will be considered. And for NCC and NSS, all 5 will be considered. If you upload, say, only 4, then the best 3 will be considered. If you upload, say, only 2, then those 2 will be considered. So it's not a prefixed condition that you have to upload 5 only and then only the best 3 will be considered. If you have only 3, upload only 3. And then these uploaded certificates will have to be brought for the offline trials as well. Wherever applicable basically means that NCC and NSS do not have the physical trials component. So, of course, you're not supposed to get them there. And at this stage, because this is also a regular query that we get, that please, ma'am, I got this certificate, I forgot to upload it. Can I please get this certificate now? No new certificates or even updations in the existing certificates will be considered. Only the certificates that you have uploaded during phase 1 of the registration will be entertained and will be taken consideration of. No other certificates will be considered at this stage. Then, like I was mentioning, that the grievance window for the other categories except NCC and NSS will not open. Here is the reason for that. Since you will be counter-signing on the marks that are being allotted to you on the basis of certificate evaluation, there's a criteria which is there for the certificate evaluation, a very well-explained criteria. You can also, in a very transparent manner, decide how much marks you should be getting for these certificates. So if as a candidate, I have calculated in my mind that I would be getting, say, 12 out of 15 or 13 out of 15. And at the time of physical trials, I see that my marks have been awarded 10. I will discuss with them. I will tell the team present there that, look, this is the way. If there has been any discrepancy, then they will change your marks. Or if you are counting them in a wrong manner, they will explain to you that this is the error that you're doing in computation of your marks. But whatever, through deliberations and discussions, your certificate marks will be finalized right then and you will be countersigning those marks. So since you have already calculated and countersigned your marks, no grievance on this count will be entertained later on for any other category except NCC and NSS. Then, and there are certain other criteria mentioned in the CSAS brochure. I request you to please go through that very clearly. Some important points I've mentioned here, not everything that is there in the CSAS has been mentioned in this slide. So in case there is no level and duration mentioned, like duration is important for the workshops. So in case the certificate does not say whether it was a 2-week duration or a 1-year duration workshop, then in that case, the lowest level and the lowest duration will be considered. And also, if it is not mentioned as solo activity, it will be considered as a group activity. Then we get a query about online activities, online certificates, e-certificates. Since normalcy in terms of COVID times, so as to say normalcy, pertained after 2022, I would suggest that no other, there'll be only online will be considered only for the year of 2021 when the COVID era was there. And after that, no online certificates will be considered for any activity, or even online activities will not be considered. Then For the computation of your ECS score, that's ECS score, there'll be physical trials will be 60 marks and certificates will be 15 marks for 12 categories. Then for NCC, all certificates computation will account for your 75 marks. And for NSS, again, your entire marks will be based on the 75 marks will be based on the certificate. Then as I had explained earlier, the CUET score will count for your 25% weightage in CEM and ECS score will count for your 75% weightage in CEM. Then the certificate evaluation criteria for all 12 ECA categories has been clearly explained in the CSAS brochure. I have only touched about these. I have not mentioned the details in this PPT. There are these 4 criteria, which is participation in competitions, training and examinations, workshops, and public performances. Now, this is a regular query that we get. If in case all your 3 certificates are, for example, say from criteria A itself, like participation in competitions, that's totally okay. We can earn these 15 points either through a single criterion or a mix of criteria. It does not matter. For the advantage of the students, this facility has been given. This condition has been put in that you can earn all 15 marks through a mix of criteria or a single criteria alone. That is not pertinent, and your 15 marks can be earned through this. The details of marking certificate are clearly explained in the CSAS brochure, as also for the NCC and NSS categories. And I would request you to look at the CSAS brochure for the details of how these competition marks or workshops or training marks have been clearly defined as depending on the duration or on international, national, or school level participations. Then the seat allocation. Again, here we get a query and so-called grievance कि मैम मेरे तो ज्यादा मार्क्स थे लेकिन मेरे फ्रेंड को कॉलेज ए मिल गया जबकि मुझे कॉलेज बी मिला और मेरी चॉइस तो कॉलेज ए की थी. देखिए, आपकी चॉइस कॉलेज ए आपके दिमाग में है, उससे इज नॉट इम्पॉर्टेंट. What is important is that how you have mentioned that in your college program, college course program preferences. If in case you have said college A to be higher in your preference, and your friend has said college B as higher in your her preference, his or her preference, and your friend scores lower in the marks and you score higher in your marks, लेकिन आपको बाद में realize हुआ कि नहीं मुझे तो college A चाहिए था, तो आपको कॉलेज ए नहीं मिलेगा. आपके फ्रेंड के लोअर स्कोर होने पर भी उसको कॉलेज ए मिलेगा क्योंकि उन्होंने अपनी प्रेफरेंस में हायर कॉलेज ए या कोर्स ए को रखा है. आपने क्योंकि दूसरे कोर्स और कॉलेज को अपनी प्रेफरेंस मैट्रिक्स में हायर रख दिया, तो आप कंप्यूटर आपकी कंप्यूटेशंस उसी हिसाब से करेगा दैट यू विल बी गिवन कॉलेज कोर्स डिपेंडेंट ऑन योर प्रेफरेंसेस which you have mentioned in your registration portal. It will be immaterial whether later on you think that college A is better or college B is better. What you have mentioned therein is how you will be given your allocations of the college and the course. Additionally, there is a condition that you need to score at least 30 marks out of 75 in the given ECA category to be considered for allocation through ECA in that category, meaning thereby, except NCC and NSS, if you have not participated in the physical trials, you are in principle out of the ECA allocation, because as you have just said, as you have just heard, and I have just mentioned that 60 marks are for the physical trial and 15 marks are for the certificate evaluation. So even if you get 15 on 15 in your certificate evaluation, you still do not score 30 out of the 75 marks. So you need to necessarily be present for your physical trials to be eligible to be considered for admission through ECA quota in a given college or a given course. Except for NCC and NSS, 30 marks condition is eligible there also, but therein those 30 marks have to be earned only through your certificates. Then finally, the allocations will be done on the given criteria. As I had just mentioned, CEM ranking of the candidate subject to the score of at least 30 marks in the given ECA score. Now here again we get a query, ma'am, मेरे ECA में तो मेरे परफॉर्मेंस में उससे ज्यादा अच्छे मार्क्स आए या मेरे सर्टिफिकेट में उससे ज्यादा अच्छे मार्क्स आए. देखिए, आपको आपकी परफॉर्मेंस के मार्क्स पता चल रहे हैं, लेकिन आपको आपकी फ्रेंड के अगर ECA score में 25% CUET component भी है. So say if your friend scored out of say 800, in any case they'll all be narrowed down to 25%. They'll all be we'll all bring them all down to 25%. तो अगर आपके 25% में से 20 बन रहे हैं और दूसरे के 24 बन रहे हैं, so even if you had 2 marks higher in the 75% component, the CM score of your friend would still be higher because उसने आपसे 4 marks का margin CUET score से cover कर लिया. So don't go by this कि उसके इतने थे मेरे इतने थे. It will all be a very transparent criteria wherein CM ranking will be based on the CM scores, not solely on the ECA scores. And then, as I was mentioning, that preferences are important, that what are the preferences you are seeing. And thirdly, that there has to be the availability of ECA seats in that given college subject to a 20% capping. Then candidates who were allocated seat in any round of ECA will have to accept that seat to be considered for subsequent ECA upgradations. It's not that आपने first round में ECA से select ही नहीं किया and then you say कि मैम मेरी friend को तो better college मिल गया, next upgrade round में मेरे को नहीं मिला. Because you had not opted for acceptance of the ECA seat in the first round, you will not be considered for any ECA upgradations. And procedures for freezing, upgrading the seats will be same as is there for the general policies of the University of Delhi admission process. Now, based on the previous year's questions that we get or the mails that we are getting through the designated email ID of the university, I have compiled this list of common FAQs that these are the questions which you usually have in mind. So before I end my presentation, I'll take you through these, and still if you have any questions, you can ask your doubts later on. That the very first question that comes up is that when will these physical trials be conducted? Because you all have to plan your calendar and your timelines accordingly. See, if in case we go by the timelines that the NTA has presently announced, that the CUET UG result will be declared on the 30th of June, then in case we envisage that the trials will be conducted, ECA trials process will begin, the conduct of the ECA trials will begin, is expected to begin either in the last of July or in the beginning of August. This is again tentatively and on the assumption that the 30th June timeline is adhered to by the NTA. This again, I am mentioning and I'm repeating, you will not be personally intimated about the conduct of these trials. Please keep checking the UOD website for the schedule, the venue, the details about how these trials will be conducted and when and where will these trials be conducted. Again, there are queries, ma'am, whether I will allow this, whether a person will be allowed, whether an accompanying this instrument will be allowed. All these detailed ECA category-wise guidelines will be published with the trial schedule, that these are the things which are allowed, these are the things which are not allowed. You can go by the past criterion which were there, the past guidelines which were uploaded. More or less, they'll remain the same with minor tweakings here and there. But that can form your basis for you to prepare for your trials accordingly. But again, I'm repeating, you will not be getting personal intimations about this trial timeline. Then the second usual question that we get is that my ECA category is not mentioned in these 14 categories. Say somebody has scored, somebody has performed very well in, say, Shlok recitations over there, or maybe the science Olympiads were there, space explorations. So the point is that there are a number of ECA categories, extracurricular, so many things. It's not a closed set of lists that can mean extracurricular. But for the point of view of admissions in DU, only these 14 categories are considered in the ECA category. We are not undermining what you have done, but everything cannot be considered, and we have a certain criteria and pass through various levels that these 14 categories have been accepted the way they are. So you will only be considered in these 14 categories, because there are certain queries which, and we keep on getting a number of queries that please consider me in this and that. No, these categories are very clearly mentioned, and something which is, say, if it's a music instrumental, it will be a music instrumental. Your science certificates cannot be of any use in the musical instrumental or even in quiz for that matter. So these 14 categories is what we considered for the ECA admissions. Then, if you do not have any certificate, and this is where we differ from the sports criteria, that I do not have any certificate or any certificate in the given 3-year timeline for the ECA category, but I trust my proficiency. Can I still appear for the physical trials? Yes, you can, but accordingly, you will be marked. Of course, this is about except NCC and NSS. Then you will be marked out of 60. Basically, it means is that out of the 15 mark component, you're getting a 0. There is no prerequisite that you need to have a minimum of this much mark in the certificates to be eligible for trials. You can come for the trials if you've enlisted therein, and then you'll be marked out of 60. Maybe you get 60 on 60 in that, then your CEM will be calculated. Therein, out of 75, you have 60, and out of 25, whatever will be your CUET score. Then I had mentioned this earlier also, that I want to get a new certificate evaluated, which I could not upload, or I want to update this given certificate. Then can I please upload it? Can I bring it for the trials? Or can I put it in the grievance window for the NCC NSS category and get marks accordingly? No, no other certificates except for what you have uploaded in the phase 1 will be considered for evaluation. Then I want to change my ECA details or certificate in the correction window period. See, writing to the Culture Council or to the ECA committee will not be of any use here. This is a policy-based decision which one has to see the technical feasibilities. So whatever is available for correction in the correction window period will be reflecting on your dashboard. Writing personal mails to anyone will not help in case, because that would not be technically feasible. See, we in the admission process try to do maximum possible things we can do for the benefit of the candidates. But in case something will lead to the technical system cannot handle that will not be open. So writing mails will not help, and especially to the Culture Council, it will be of no use. In fact, to anybody for that matter, because whatever is available, it will not be opening for a single candidate alone. It will be opening for everybody, and it will be reflecting in the policy which is there in the dashboard. Then the next question that we usually get is that my marks I have calculated are coming more than 15. Then can I get an advantage for that? Say maybe if I get a 20 here and you can evaluate me out of 55 in the physical trial component. No, that will not happen. The capping is of 15 marks. So even if you're getting 17, that will mean that your score is 15. So whatever marks you get in excess of 15 will not be of any advantage. It will be counted towards the 15 mark as the maximum score out of in the certificate component. Then this I mentioned, and I'm repeating here, that I've already gotten my choice of college program and I don't want to appear for the trials. Will it affect my earlier allocation? No, the general allocations are independent of the ECA allocations. If you do not accept your ECA allocation, the only disadvantage is that you cannot be considered for the upgradation in this component. Or if you've gotten the choice of your college program in the first 2 rounds of your general allocation, then you may not appear altogether in your trials. That is again your personal choice. Then you will not be considered for the ECA allocations. This is a related question. I do not want to accept my ECA allocation. Then in that case, you will not be considered for any ECA upgradation rounds if and all they happen. And then this is a very important question, because many a times we come across candidates who think that ECA category is a way of taking admission, or sports for that matter. And then we may declare ourselves to be unfit, or we do not want to, or so-called our studies are affecting. No, that cannot happen. You are obligated to take part in the given ECA activities and events of the college or of the university whenever it has been desired by the college or the university. If you think that you can only take the admission through this category and then you can refuse participation, that may lead to your cancellation of admission during any time of the entire duration of the course of the study. So if you're opting for a 1 year, since it's an NEP and there are multiple exit options. So if you're opting for a 1 year program and during that year you refused, your admission can be liable to be cancelled. Similarly, if you're opting up to 4 years, then also in that 4th year, then you cannot say, but that ma'am, I participated in the given 3 years or in my first year, now this is my final year. You have to be choosy of the fact that if you're taking admission and advantage of the same through a particular quota, which is the ECA quota, you are obligated to take part in the activities of the college or the university through that quota. So that's about it from my end. And if there are any questions, then we can get them from the admission branch. And I can stop this PPT. Yes, I'm done with my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. So ma'am has presented in so much detail everything. I don't think that kuch bacha hoga aisa, because I am continuously observing the chat section, the YouTube chat, and there are a lot of queries, and most of the queries have been covered in this Q&A session or the FAQs which you have prepared, ma'am. So I just want to ask one or two more points which I think were not covered. Like one student, we also handle emails at admission branch, so we get a lot of emails regarding this ECA and sports. So most of the emails we reply to our documents, but there are certain points, like there is one question in मेरे certificate में एक date mention नहीं है that when it is issued for ECA or sports for what category. So can we accept that certificate? Like a date mention now?
In ECA, we don't. I think sir is also nodding his, saying his head and no.
No, we don't consider it, that is not mentioned in the sports certificate.
Okay.
And in fact, it is clearly mentioned in the CSAS document that undated certificate will not be considered.
Yes. And there is a lot of confusion regarding that. Can I give my online certificate as well? Like there is a window, but still they ask this question that can we upload? I participated in some online activity, and that ECA or that activity was completely in online mode, and the certificate which was issued that is also in digital mode. So there are 2 points. Number one, the online activity, and the second point is digital certificates. So I'll request ma'am to tell us about this, that how we consider these things.
See, now, as I mentioned earlier, that the broad policy is that no, we are not considering the online activities beyond the year 2021. And so thereby the second query is a follow-on query only, that in case the activity has been considered in the offline mode, then it is but obvious that the certificate will also be issued in the offline mode only. But then there are certain activities, again, it is not to be quoted. It depends on the activities that we are talking here. Say certain international MUNs are there, which are held in online mode even right now, because they are held, Harvard is one, or for that matter, there are some reputed international MUN organizations which do consider. Then in those rare exceptional circumstance, again, it all depends on the authenticity of that certificate. We have got various ways to authenticate that. We'll send an email to that organizing institution, or it depends on the reputation of that organizing institution. Then in the rarest of the rare circumstance, will this certificate in the online mode be considered? Otherwise, beyond 2021, we are not considering any activity being done in the online mode, and therefore no online certificates also.
Okay.
In sports we only consider the all the sports which are being conducted in offline mode.
Okay. And shall we accept the certificate which are issued in some inter-school activity? There is one more query.
It's for ECA or for sports?
For ECA specifically.
I would request that particular candidate to please look at the CSAS brochure. Because my other PPT was quite long, therefore I skipped that portion. The marks evaluation is clearly mentioned for the inter-school activity, inter-district activities, that criteria A, which is the inter-school, the competitions basically. So there are different inter-district, inter-school, interstate, national or international. There are various levels given for that. So if it's a mere participation, there's a 0 mark for that. And if there is more than that, then that table has to be consulted to get your marks.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. So, sir, there is query that can a candidate apply in ECA as well as sports, or he is belonging to, let's say, some OBC category. So there is not a confusion कि अगर मैंने OBC में apply किया क्या मुझे सिर्फ OBC मिलेगी, sports में किया है क्या sports से मिलेगा? So I would request sir to enlighten upon that if a candidate is applying in multiple, like supernumerary as well as reserved category. So how will be the allocation will take place?
See, the first thing I would like to into the knowledge of all the candidates that in sports, a candidate can apply in 3 sports. So when he'll go to the website of the admission branch, he'll fill the general information, and once he goes to the tab of sports, he will fill all the required the points in that. Once he fills that form, in the last he'll be asked that do you want to apply in any other sports? If you say yes, then you'll come down to the same tab again. So you can apply in 3 sports. The second point is ki if a student has applied in the general or the reserve quota, see, a student will be, see in sports and ECA, we are coming in the 3rd list basically. So the already 1st and 2nd list are already displayed before we come with the result of the sports and ECA. So a candidate, see, applying in Delhi University will be firstly considered for any the marks obtained by him in the CUT score, irrespective of whether he's applying in sports or he's applying in some other the quota. So when he come to sports quota, we'll consider her merit exclusively and we'll offer him the seats in sports quota.
Okay, so basically जो हमारा एलोकेशन सिस्टम है, it goes parallelly.
Yes.
एक एलोकेशन हमारी रिजर्व कैटेगरी की वो अलग है और ECA स्पोर्ट्स की अलग है. आपकी एक एलोकेशन से दूसरी एलोकेशन, ऐसा नहीं कि अगर आपको एक एलोकेशन हो गया और आप दूसरी में एलिजिबल होते हुए भी आपको ना मिले. अगर आपका स्कोर है, आप एलिजिबल हो, तो आपको जर्नल और ओबीसी और SC ST जो भी कैटेगरी है उसमें भी एलोकेशन होगी और ECA और स्पोर्ट्स कैटेगरी में भी आपको एलोकेशन होगी. बट आपको अपने डैशबोर्ड पे टाइमली चेक करते रहना, देखते रहना और अकॉर्डिंगली जो भी टाइम लाइन है उसमें एक्सेप्ट करना. So lot of things have been cleared in this webinar through PPT and through discussion, and at the end I just want to summarize few basic points जो मैं आपको दोबारा से सभी कैंडिडेट्स को, सभी एस्पिरेंट्स को बताना चाहता हूँ कि ये पॉइंट्स को जरूर ध्यान रखें. सबसे पहले जो हमारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं उनको अच्छे से पढ़ें. आप जब अप्लाई कर रहे हैं तो अप्लाई करने से पहले वो सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स को, जो भी पॉलिसीज है, जो भी रूल्स हैं, उनको जरूर पढ़ें. बहुत सारे कैंडिडेट्स ऐसे आते हैं जो बाद में हमें कहते हैं सर हमें नहीं पता था, मैम हमें नहीं पता था. ना पता होना ये आपके लेवल पे, आपके एंड पे प्रॉब्लम है, आपके एंड पे गलती है. आपको अवेयरनेस होनी चाहिए. तो आप इन चीजों को पढ़ें और फिर अप्लाई करो और केयरफुली अपने फॉर्म में ECA स्पोर्ट्स कैटेगरी को टिक जरूर करें. सेकेंड थिंग, आपको ये सारे जो टिक करने के ऑप्शन है ये सिर्फ फेज 1 में है, स्टार्टिंग में ही है. मिड एंट्री में आपको ये ऑप्शन नहीं मिलेगा कि आप सोचे चलो हमने पहले नहीं किया, मिड एंट्री में दोबारा से ऑप्शन मिल रहा है. जिसने पहले अप्लाई नहीं किया, आप कर सकते हैं मिड एंट्री में अप्लाई, बट नॉट इन ECA और स्पोर्ट्स. यू कैन अप्लाई एज अ नॉर्मल कैंडिडेट और रिजर्व कैंडिडेट, बट नॉट अंडर ECA और स्पोर्ट्स. सो आप इस बात का जरूर ध्यान रखें और इसको फेज 1 में ही अप्लाई करें. और सारी इंफॉर्मेशन आपको वेबसाइट और डैशबोर्ड पे दी जाएगी. कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन आपको इंडिविजुअली कॉल करके या मैसेज करके या ईमेल के थ्रू नहीं दी जाएगी. सारी इंफॉर्मेशन आपके डैशबोर्ड और वेबसाइट पर अवेलेबल होगी. आपको टाइमली अपनी वेबसाइट को चेक करना है, टाइम टू टाइम, और विद इन स्टिपुलेटेड टाइम पीरियड, 2 दिन, 3 दिन, 4 दिन के टाइम में जो भी आपका एक्शन रिक्वायर्ड है वो होना चाहिए. अगर आपने अपनी सीट एक्सेप्ट नहीं करी, यू विल बी आउट ऑफ द एलोकेशन राउंड्स. उस केस में कोई भी कुछ नहीं आपका कर सकता. आपकी रिक्वेस्ट किसी भी तरीके से एंटरटेन नहीं की जा सकती. आपको ध्यान रखना है पूरे टाइमलाइन का, पूरे प्रोसेस का, किस डेट पे कौन सी लिस्ट फाइनलाइज होगी, कौन से फेज में कौन सी लिस्ट आएगी, और सारी इंफॉर्मेशन वेबसाइट पे टाइम टू टाइम अपलोड की जाएगी और आपके डैशबोर्ड पे भी आएगी. सो सभी स्टूडेंट से ये रिक्वेस्ट भी है, आपको इंस्ट्रक्शंस भी है, आपके लिए सजेशन भी है कि आप इन चीजों का ध्यान रखें. ओके, थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू सर. आप फाइनली कंक्लूड करने के लिए कुछ कहना चाहेंगे मैम?
नहीं, बस आप यही कि कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन जैसे आपने कहा कि आपके डैशबोर्ड पे और वेबसाइट पे आएंगी, कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन आपके डैशबोर्ड पे नहीं भी आएंगी, जैसे ट्रायल्स कब हो रहे हैं, कहाँ हो रहे हैं, तो वो आपको प्लीज वेबसाइट ही देखनी होगी. यू विल नॉट बी पर्सनली इंटिमेटेड अबाउट दैट. एंड बाकी तो सब आपने, सर ने बहुत अच्छे से समझा ही दिया है.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, sir, for giving us time to enlighten our students, to guide them. And we hope that all of you have got a lot of information. आपको बहुत सारी जानकारी मिली है. और भी कोई आपको अगर इंफॉर्मेशन लेनी हो, हमारी हेल्पलाइन नंबर है, हमारी ईमेल आईडी है, आप जिस पे हमें लिख सकते हैं अपनी क्वेरीज को, और आपको हम कोशिश करते हैं कि हम उन ईमेल्स का रिप्लाई विद इन 48 आवर्स हम आपको रिप्लाई करें. और किसी भी तरीके की आउटसाइडर की इंफॉर्मेशन पर रिलाई ना करें. बहुत सारे आउटसाइडर सोर्सेस है, बहुत सारे अनऑथेंटिक सोर्सेस हैं जो रिलायबल नहीं है, आपको कुछ भी इंफॉर्मेशन दे रहे हैं, गलत इंफॉर्मेशन दे रहे हैं, आप उन पे रिलाई ना करें. हमेशा जो इंफॉर्मेशन हमारी ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट पे है सिर्फ उसी पे रिलाई करें. और जो भी आप कम्युनिकेशन कर रहे हैं हमारी ऑफिशियल ईमेल आईडीज पे ही करें, दूसरी किसी भी अनऑफिशियल ईमेल आईडी पे आपको कोई रिप्लाई आ रहा है उन पे रिलाई ना करें, क्योंकि कई बार ऐसा हमने सुना है, कई बार ऐसे केसेस होते हैं जिसमें कोई आपको अनऑथेंटिक सोर्स या कोई ऐसे सोर्सेज हैं जो आपको इस तरीके से कोई इंफॉर्मेशन देंगे या आपको प्रॉमिस करेंगे, उन पे बिल्कुल भी रिलाई ना करें, सारी इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट से ही देखें। ओके, सो विद दिस वी कंक्लूड दिस सेशन एंड वी आर वेटिंग फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू, जितने भी हमारे स्टूडेंट्स हैं, हम आप वी विश यू योर बेस्ट लक एंड जल्दी जल्दी से आप सारे प्रोसेस कंप्लीट कीजिए और यूनिवर्सिटी में एडमिशन के लिए आइए। सो एडमिशन ब्रांच की तरफ से सभी को नमस्कार एंड थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू सर।
Thank you. All the best and welcome.
ਉਦੋਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਫੀਲ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਘਰਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਧੀਆ ਲੱਗਦਾ, ਪ੍ਰਾਊਡ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਬਸ ਮੇਰੇ ਘਰਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਊਡ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਬਾਕੀ ਸਭ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ। ਹੜ ਨਾ ਸਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਆ ਜਾ, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਖੜੇ ਬੇਬੇ ਬਾਪੂ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ। ਹੜ ਨਾ ਸਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦਾ ਜਾਲ, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਖੜੇ ਬੇਬੇ ਬਾਪੂ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ। ਬੰਦਾ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਹੀ ਗਵਾਵੇ, ਪਰ ਇੱਕੋ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਂ ਉਹਦਾ ਦਿਲ ਨਾ ਦੁਖਾਵੇ। ਮੈਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਹਰ ਜਨਮ ਤੂੰ ਹੋਵੇਂ ਮੇਰੀ ਮਾਂ, ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਤੋਂ ਨਾ ਕਰ ਦਵੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਬੜਾ ਤੰਗ ਕਰਦਾ, ਪਰ ਛੱਡ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਚੱਲ ਪੁੱਤ ਤੇਰਾ ਹਾਂ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਆ ਚੰਗਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੱਢਦੀਆਂ ਗਾਲਾਂ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਗਾਲਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਘਿਓ ਦੀਆਂ ਨਾਲਾਂ। ਬਚਪਨ ਤੋਂ ਤੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲਾੜ ਹੀ ਲੜਾਇਆ, ਜੋ ਵੀ ਸੀ ਸਿਖਾਇਆ ਸਭ ਚੰਗੇ ਲਈ ਸਿਖਾਇਆ। ਅੱਜ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਕੁਝ ਹਾਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਹੀ ਹਾਂ, ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਸਭ ਜਰ ਕੇ ਹੀ ਹਾਂ। ਤੂੰ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ ਪੜਾਉਣਾ ਪਰ ਪੜਿਆ ਮੈਂ ਨਾ, ਦੁਆਵਾਂ ਤੇਰੀਆਂ ਨਾ ਚਮਕਾਤਾ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਂ। ਹਰ ਕਦਮ ਕਦਮ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੀ ਤੂੰ ਖੜੀ, ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਤੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਲੜੀ। ਜਿਹੜੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਕਵੇਂ ਉਹੀ ਜਿੱਤ ਲਵਾਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ। ਤੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਮੇਰੀ ਮਾਂ, ਤੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਮੇਰੀ ਮਾਂ, ਤੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਮੇਰੀ ਮਾਂ। ਫੜ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਸਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦਾ ਜਾਲ, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਖੜੇ ਬੇਬੇ ਬਾਪੂ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ। ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਸਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦਾ ਜਾਲ, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਖੜੇ ਬੇਬੇ ਬਾਪੂ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ। ਜਿਹਦੇ ਹੁੰਦਿਆਂ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਨਾ ਡਰ, ਜੇ ਉਹ ਹੈਗਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਵਾਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨਾਲ ਲੜ। 7 ਜਨਮ ਵੀ ਲਾ ਕੇ ਮੋੜ ਸਕਾਂ ਨਾ ਮੈਂ ਮੁੱਲ, ਹਰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਖੁੱਲ। ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਮੰਗੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਦੋ ਸੀ ਦਵਾਈ, ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਰੀਝ ਬਾਪੂ ਤੂੰ ਸੀ ਪਗਾਈ। ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸੁੱਖ, ਸਾਰੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਲਕੋਏ ਉਹਨੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸੀ ਦੁੱਖ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰੁਪਏ 5 ਲੈ ਕੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਖਾਂਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਲੇਜ਼, ਉਹਦੇ ਸ਼ੌਂਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਤੂੰ ਕਾਤੋਂ ਗਿਆ ਪਰਦੇਸ। ਛੇਤੀ ਮਿਲ ਬਾਪੂ ਸਾਡਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਨਾ ਜੀ, ਉਡੀਕਦਾ ਆ ਪੁੱਤ ਤੇ ਉਡੀਕਦੀ ਆ ਧੀ। ਉਂਗਲ ਤੂੰ ਫੜ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਰਨਾ ਸਿਖਾਇਆ, ਅੱਜ ਕਾਮਯਾਬੀ ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਹੱਥ ਫੜ ਕੇ ਦਿਖਾਇਆ। ਉਂਗਲ ਤੂੰ ਫੜ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਰਨਾ ਸਿਖਾਇਆ, ਅੱਜ ਕਾਮਯਾਬੀ ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਹੱਥ ਫੜ ਕੇ ਦਿਖਾਇਆ। 4 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਤੇ ਲੱਗਾ ਨਾ ਮਹਾਨ, ਬਿਨ ਤੇਰੇ ਨਰਕ ਜਿਹਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਜਹਾਨ ਮੈਨੂੰ। ਬਿਨ ਤੇਰੇ ਨਰਕ ਜਿਹਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਜਹਾਨ ਮੈਨੂੰ, ਬਿਨ ਤੇਰੇ ਨਰਕ ਜਿਹਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਜਹਾਨ। ਫੜ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਸਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੁਨੀਆ
ਰਕਾਨੇ ਸਾਥ ਤੇਰਾ ਮੰਗਦਾ ਨੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੋਂ ਸੰਗਦਾ ਨੀ ਗਲੀ ਤੇਰੀ ਲੰਘਦਾ ਨੀ ਝੂਠਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਖੰਗਦਾ ਨੀ ਗੱਭਰੂ ਤੇਰੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਕਰਦਾ ਕਾਰੇ ਨੀ ਦੇਖੀ ਕਿਤੇ ਲਾਵੀਂ ਲਾਰੇ ਨੀ ਗਵਾਨੇ ਚੰਨ ਤੇ ਤਾਰੇ ਨੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਨਾ ਸੈਣ ਰਕਾਨੇ ਨੈਣ ਤੇਰੇ ਚੈਨ ਮੇਰੇ ਲੁੱਟਦੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਰਕਾਨੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਦੇਖਾਂ ਤੂੰ ਹੀ ਦਿਸ ਜਾਏ ਭਲੇਖੇ ਵੈਣ ਰਕਾਨੇ ਨੈਣ ਤੇਰੇ ਚੈਨ ਮੇਰੇ ਲੁੱਟਦੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਰਕਾਨੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਦੇਖਾਂ ਤੂੰ ਹੀ ਦਿਸ ਜਾਏ ਭਲੇਖੇ ਵੈਣ ਰਕਾਨੇ ਅੱਖੀਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਕਹਿ ਗਈ ਐ ਰੂਹ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਲੈ ਗਈ ਐ ਤੂੰ ਜ਼ਹਿਨ ਚ ਵਹਿ ਗਈ ਐ ਓ ਆਫਤ ਵਹਿ ਗਈ ਐ ਬਿੱਲੋ ਹੱਸਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਦਿਲ ਜਾ ਖਿੜਦਾ ਨੀ ਲੇਖੇ ਜਿੰਦ ਲਾਉਣ ਨੂੰ ਫਿਰਦਾ ਨੀ ਤੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਬੜੇ ਹੀ ਚਿਰਦਾ ਨੀ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਬੇਚੈਨ ਰਕਾਨੇ ਨੈਣ ਤੇਰੇ ਚੈਨ ਮੇਰੇ ਲੁੱਟਦੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਰਕਾਨੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਦੇਖਾਂ ਤੂੰ ਹੀ ਦਿਸ ਜਾਏ ਭਲੇਖੇ ਵੈਣ ਰਕਾਨੇ ਨੈਣ ਤੇਰੇ ਚੈਨ ਮੇਰੇ ਲੁੱਟਦੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਰਕਾਨੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਦੇਖਾਂ ਤੂੰ ਹੀ ਦਿਸ ਜਾਏ ਭਲੇਖੇ ਵੈਣ ਰਕਾਨੇ